Hi, my name's Mark White and welcome to my first video diary documenting our journey into going electric. Now, there are loads of high quality, well produced videos on YouTube. For instance, Fully Charged with Robert Llewellyn from Red Dwarf and CarWow are a couple of our favourites. And they've been a great source of information to us as we've been doing our research recently. But the whole subject's just really confusing. There's so much information out there and we were just confused, and we've been gradually distilling this information. So a few days ago I decided to ask some friends and see if anybody else was thinking of making the switch and whether they thought this video diary would be useful to them too. And the resounding answer was yes. People said they'd want to hear what we thought and how things were going and follow the story. So hence the fact that we're going to do these videos. Now, when you start your research, there's so much jargon that you hear along the way. It would be really easy to just give up and come back another day when everything's been sort of clarified. But hopefully, as we learn along the way, maybe we can explain what some of this terminology means. You know, things like kilowatt hours, range anxiety, granny chargers, ICE cars, etc. And as we learn, we'll explain some of this stuff to you as well, and hopefully it'll become less daunting. As I say, we're not experts by any means. We don't even own our electric vehicle yet. It's still early days for us, but hopefully you can learn along with us and see how we get on. For those of you who don't know us, first of all, a little bit of background. So my wife Lindsay and I, we both love our cars, and we've been both very lucky to own a car each for most of our married life. We're not protective as to who owns which car. We swap and change the cars all the time. We drive each other's cars. You know, they're just our cars, not each other's cars. And we've been considering recently that maybe our next car could be an electric car. And we were going to do that in a couple of years' time when Lindsay's car was probably due for change. So the question is, why are we doing it now rather than in a couple of years' time? And the answer is simply COVID and lockdown. And I think for most people, COVID and lockdown has had a massive impact on their lives and how they commute and how they travel and all these sorts of things. And that's been the same for us. We've both been working from home. Lindsay was furloughed for a little while, but subsequently we've become home workers. And as a result, we've had two cars, but we've never had two cars physically on the road at the same time. There has always been a car on the drive. And in October, we had to renew Lindsay's car tax, and being a really nice car, it was a very expensive chunk of car tax. Coupled with that, we'd obviously got things like car insurance and things as well, and we just realised it was a waste of money. We were spending money and we weren't doing the miles, and on top of that, of course, the car was sitting on the drive depreciating every month, and we just took a decision to cut our losses, go down to one car, sell Lindsay's car, get our car tax back, get a refund on our insurance, and plan the switch to electric. Now, the first question is, were we confident enough to make the switch? And, you know, that was always a little bit of a dilemma. At least having sold the car, if we decided not to go electric, we could have just bought another petrol or another diesel and just gone back to, you know, business as usual. But we've got quite a few friends who've gone electric, and all of them have not regretted making the switch. Now, admittedly, most of them are Tesla owners, and that I think makes a big difference. But when we looked at the price of the Tesla, to get the range that we wanted, because there's some really long range versions of Teslas, you needed to buy the dual motor one, the all-wheel drive dual motor Tesla, and that makes a big difference to the price, and that was more than we really wanted to pay. Coupled with that, we also wanted a hatchback, and the Model 3 is a saloon, and that really didn't fit what we wanted either. So we came to the conclusion that maybe the Tesla wasn't for us, both on price and the fact that it wasn't a hatchback. Now, again, from the Tesla point of view, for those of you who are interested in going electric and maybe considering a Tesla, we would have been very confident making the switch with a Tesla. We wouldn't have considered twice. Most people know that Tesla have a fantastic network of dedicated superchargers, and in fact, a friend of mine, Steve, who's had his now for a while, he's been as far as Prague in his. He's also been to Denmark and had absolutely no issues with charging and range. So no problems if we'd have gone Tesla. We'd have been more than happy to do that. But if we're not going Tesla, is the UK infrastructure up to the job for electric vehicles today? And I think that's probably most people's concern. So one of the considerations is, do we go with a halfway choice and go for a hybrid? Now, again, I know someone who's already done this, subsequently switched to a fully electric car and wouldn't go back to a hybrid. So that tells me one thing. And I think what you have to remember with a hybrid is what you actually have is two engines. You have your traditional internal combustion engine, or ICE, ICE, and there's your first acronym solved. That's what an ICE car is, an internal combustion engine car. But you also have an electric motor and a battery as well. So if you can imagine having a petrol engine, fuel, battery and an electric engine, you can imagine the extra weight that's in that car. And that has an impact, of course, on fuel economy, both on the electric engine or electric motor, but also on the petrol engine. And as a result, it's great to have a hybrid from an emergencies point of view, but you're not going to get very far on an electric charge. So maybe if you're only doing small miles, just commuting backwards and forwards to work, and you can recharge your battery every day, maybe that's a choice. I do know some company car drivers who've gone down that route and never even charge the battery, because what they're trying to do is get some tax benefits by having a hybrid car, and that defeats the object completely. You're actually using more fuel if you're not charging the car properly at all. So for us, I think we decided hybrid was out. Again, I'm not preaching or anything here. It's everybody makes their own decisions. These are just our thought processes and the choices that we decided to make. And we decided hybrid really wasn't the route that we wanted to go. So choosing the car, there was a few other requirements we had. So the first was, if we're going to go electric, we wanted a decent range. We wanted the cost to be reasonably sensible. I know electric cars are more expensive than petrol cars, but what you've got to bear in mind is what you're doing there is you're pre-buying your fuel, because you're going to make savings on what you spend on your electricity over buying petrol or diesel. So that's what you're paying for. That's why they're a little bit more expensive, or significantly more expensive. We wanted a hatchback. That was, we've just sold an SUV and we wanted another hatchback, so that was a key requirement. And also front wheel drive. We couldn't really afford a two motor car like the Tesla, so we were going for a 2-wheel drive vehicle. Personally, again, I'm not a fan of rear wheel drive in the winter, so we decided it also wanted to be a front wheel drive car. Now, if we'd have looked at this 12 months ago, that would have left you with very, very little choice. But there have been loads of EVs released in 2020. And loads of choice now, and what we could do is use that as a way of filtering down the choices that we wanted. So what that did is that brought us down to a couple of cars that we like the look of. There was the electric Citroen DS, which looked quite funky, and also we like the look of the Peugeot E 2008, or 208 actually, we started looking at initially. Now, when you know a little bit about the cars, you realise actually under the covers they're exactly the same car, just with a different body on top and different trim. And also along with the e-Corsa as well, which is the same, because Citroen, Peugeot and Vauxhall are all owned by the PSA group. And what they've built is the same chassis, the same battery and the same motor, but then they let the 3 car manufacturers stick their own bodies on top and make them unique in that way. So if you look at the ranges and the performance on all of them, pretty much identical. There were some other choices with probably a little bit more range at a similar price. But again, we decided that we liked the look of the Citroen and the Peugeot E208 and decided those were the ones that we were going to focus on. However, when we went and test drove the Peugeot, we also found that there was an E2008, which is a little bit bigger and a little bit more like the SUV that we just traded in. And as a result, that was the choice that we went down because it felt closer to what we'd just sold, but gave us all the benefits of the electric. Next thing though is, do you lease it or do you buy it? And to this day, we still don't know whether we've made the right decision here. I know these days most people prefer to lease their cars on a PCP, I'm still a bit old-fashioned, and I still like to own cars, and so that was the choice that we decided that we were going to go down. And I'll talk a little bit about the risks around that in a little while. But that was the route we decided. But we were severely tempted by another option. And a friend of mine, Neil, also a Tesla owner, when we spoke to him about going down this route, he told me he rented his, and that was like, what do you mean by rent? And basically, he used a website called, they're now called on2.com. So it's www.on.to.com. I'll put a link in the comments below. And basically what they do is they rent the car monthly to you. It's a short-term contract, so you're not tied into a long lease. And that covers your car, your charging, so you get free charging at their charge points. It includes your car insurance, your servicing and your breakdown cover. There's no tax on an EV, but everything with them is in a monthly fee, no long-term contract, so no risk. And if you dip in your toe into the water and just want to try it out, maybe that's the way to go. And they do everything from a little Renault Zoe to Teslas and Jaguar I-Paces, so loads of different choice in the range. In fact, the car that we've gone for, they also rent those as well. Well worth looking. I'll put the link in the comments below. Anyway, we're still not sure what was the right choice, but we've ordered our car and we're going to buy it. It should arrive in January. It's actually being built, starting the build on December the 10th, so hopefully we'll get that in early January. The one thing I will say on extras and things, the one thing we have done with the car is we've upgraded the onboard charger, which allows us to do faster charging if we go to things like motorway service stations and stuff like that. We thought that was probably quite an important extra to have. Now, is buying it the right thing? And again, we don't know, and I don't think anybody knows at the moment. This is just such a new area that nobody really knows how this is going to play out. But our thought is that maybe in a few years' time, when we're ready to change the car, is there could be a lot of buyers in the market for second-hand electric vehicles. Maybe not enough to go round, and maybe they'll hold the price. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But it is a risk, and I can understand why people might lease or rent and de-risk the situation by going down that route. The last thing, really, just to tie things up on buying EVs at the moment, if you haven't done your research yet, is the point that there's a £3,000 government grant, so you get a £3,000 discount off the price of the car. The government also pay a contribution to you having a charger fitted at your home, and in a lot of cases the car dealers top that up as well and give you money towards that. And that really was the clincher for us, because we expect probably 95%, maybe even more, of our charging to be done from home. So having a charger at home was critical. I think if we'd got a house that hadn't got a drive or hadn't got a garage and had got on-street parking or was a flat or something like that, we wouldn't have even considered an electric car at this point in time. Charging from home for me is probably a must-have thing to go down the EV route at this point. But that's where we are. We're at that point now. The car's on order. We know we're going to be charging from home. We're waiting for it to be delivered. And that's really the next step, really. There's quite a few things to do before the car arrives. In fact, most of it's been done already. And we'll talk about that in the next video diary, because we'll be talking about a little bit more about charging, how we got confidence in the charging network within the UK, talk about that, and how you can find the public charges, especially free ones. And that was interesting, the fact that there is free charging out there. If you could imagine having free petrol stations, there are places where you can charge your car from free all over the country. That was an interesting thing that we found. A couple of other things that we'll talk in the next video regarding charging is about changing our electricity tariff, and also about getting the charger fitted. So that's it, where we're at the moment. We'll do the next video shortly. Feel free to share the video with your friends, click like and subscribe on the channel if you want to get notifications about when the next video gets released as well. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this bit useful first of all. and we'll see you on the next video and talk a little bit about more charging and see how that goes. Thank you.